Representative Raúl Grijalva from Arizona, who is in his 6th term as a member of Congress. He's made the reform and full funding of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act his top education priority for the 113th Congress. He has been instrumental in enhancing services for English language learners. He's a longstanding member of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, where he chairs the Education Task Force, and chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus's Education Task Force, and a member of the Education and Workforce Committee, and part of the Subcommittee on Early Childhood, Elementary, and Secondary Education. He has been a crusader for better and more equitable schools for many, many years, and I'm delighted that he will lead off this conversation on the new accountability. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you very much, and good morning. I come to the arena of education and public education specifically from a couple of vantage points. A product of the system. I toiled in the vineyards as a school board member for 12 years, and had that governance experience. And then I went to work as a county supervisor, dealing with adult education and reentry students that were coming back for career development, extra skills, literacy. And now almost 12 years on the Education Committee here in the United States Congress. And I think the topic today is not only necessary, timely, but also I think an open discussion about accountability in its full definition is necessary. Accountability in public education, I think, is necessary and vital. The sustainability of the system is depending on the community response to accountability. But I also think that accountability tempered with flexibility for communities, school systems, and children is a very, very important criteria that sometimes we leave out of the equation. I think there's been a rush to judgment on the issue of testing, where we focus more on ranking and labeling of students, teachers, and schools than on the fundamental question about how the instrument can be used to build capacity and improvement in those schools. And how do you, in this era of ours, in this time of ours and in the future, really generate the type of collaborative transformation that our school systems and our schools desperately need? So I think we need to shift accountability models to the ones that support and improve, and consequently that improvement will inform the community and inform the schools. I look at our federal government, the reauthorization issue that we went through. I felt still that the reauthorization of the Elementary and Secondary School Act was tepid at best. It's the best you could do in the environment. Less resources, more constriction of options, and in the long run, basically try to hang on to an essential program that I didn't feel was addressing the future needs of this country and of its students. 14% of what the federal government, 14% of the support for public education comes from the federal government. Most of the industrialized nations, the nations ahead of us, are contributing up to 54% of that support for public education. And you see it in our states as that becomes the necessary budget item that gets reduced, changed, formalized, becomes more prescriptive, and that support begins to wane for public education. So there's been a rush to say one of the ways that we can fix our public school systems is through rigorous testing and rigorous consequences to that testing. And as was just stated, that has not panned out as the end-all, be-all to the improvement of our public education system. We need accountability, but we also need the flexibility that goes with that accountability. we've seen the increased funding in the federal government has been on the competitive side, like implementing specific programs like Race to the Top, the Common Core movement across to establish state standards. And in doing so, I think we have lost sight of one of the essentials of improving our schools, and that is the resource base, the investment strategy that goes into building capacity and improving our schools. The one way that has been used, at least in many states, is the issue of choice. The public education is not doing its job, so we must provide parents with a variety of choice: public, private charters, and private schools, and begin to address those needs by shifting funding from the public education system to provide and supplement parental choice. In doing so, further shrinking not only the support for public education, but also constricting and changing the population of students that go to public schools. And a lot of this is based on what I've seen as simplistic approaches to trying to fix our schools. And funding and resources has always been the last item considered in the process. And I would suggest that, public education has always been, and education in general has always been idea rich. We have great ideas. It's always been resource poor. So if those ideas just linger, they're wonderful. I wish we would have implemented some of those. We wouldn't be in the shape that we're in. But there's always the attachment that the resources don't come with that capacity building. And I just want to point out another point that I think can't be lost in an investment strategy. Education, and public education in particular, has been called, and justifiably so, and rationally true, the civil rights issue of this generation. An issue that addresses the changing face of public education, the demographic shift, the needs of English learners, the need of poor children, the needs of a community that feels that this is an area in which there is a way out for a society. The most integrative element in our society has been our public education as an institution. And those needs have to be met and not left not neglected. That's the reality of our society coming up. An investment strategy that deals with equity, deals with the changing face of the American people and its students. In Arizona, 1 out of 2 babies coming into kindergarten is of color or Latino or an English learner or an immigrant baby. And that is the societal shift in that state, and I'm sure it's a societal shift in many places. And addressing that through the colleges of education, the preparation of teachers, and an investment strategy. How limiting are we to ourselves? How limiting are we that we don't understand that the investment now in a generation to build capacity in our public schools, to promote accountability, but also never forget equity, and never forget that this is an opportunity gate for society, always has been, our schools. How limiting are we that we don't make that investment, a personal, responsible investment in our schools, at the expense of the continued growth of this great nation of ours? It makes no sense, and part of our accountability has to be in the long term. The economic future, the societal integration, and the status of this country as the greatest nation on earth. It's as simple as that, as complex as that, and as direct as that. Thank you very much.